So, Bob, after now watching the film from Tuesday, anything you saw better or worse than your original impression that night?
No, I think I was pretty much spot on with my post game comments. We we didn't pass the ball. I mean, they do a great job of playing passing lanes, but we didn't do much to move them. Um, so we didn't get the ball where we needed to get the ball, obviously. But the rebounding deal is just that's mind blowing to me. With I think we got a pretty good lick at it yesterday.
Was it effort? Was it not doing what you're supposed to do?
And a lot of it was effort. It's effort. It's technique. It's 74% of missed shots go opposite. They go over the rim. And the ones that don't go over the rim hit on the rim and bounce backwards towards the shooter. And that's really where everybody is because everybody runs to the ball. So it's not that hard to rebound it opposite if you'll just get opposite and get inside of whoever's there. And we didn't do any of that. And we missed enough shots. We missed enough shots to maybe set a record.
What was going on in the game early with Sean? He looked like he didn't want you to go on.
Well, I think they keyed on him for one, Bob. I think Greg went in with the idea that they were gonna make sure that the people in their zone understood that whenever he or Taz were anywhere within the shooting area, and when the ball got there, somebody had to be there. I think that's a big part of it. I don't think he wanted to. He struggled for a couple of days shooting the ball, as everybody does, and I think he didn't want to miss a bunch of shots. You saw his range. He's got great range, and we just didn't get the ball where it was supposed to go. That sounds simple, I know, but that's a fact. They did a great job of taking passing lanes away.
Ball pressure and help as good as it looked on Tuesday.
What, ours?
Your guys.
Well, it could be a lot better. We didn't help the way we need to help. We've got to gap things a lot better than what we did. We kind of waved at him, they drove it in the gap, and instead of stepping over, we waved at it. I think we did a pretty good job when they rolled to the basket, down the middle of the floor. But everybody's in there then. We just got to do a better job of closing gaps.
Imagine the idea of having a sold-out crowd get your juices flowing somewhat.
Well, I'm everywhere I've been. I've tried to work really, really hard at. That was one of the things that I wanted, and at the end of my deal at Akron, we were getting big crowds for Akron. We were getting big crowds, and I think once we got it going at Cincinnati, we were kind of shocked if there weren't 13,176 in the building. So I got kind of used to it, and then I went to K-State and they hadn't won in a long time, and you go out and do all those catbacker things, and the guy said, I'd buy tickets if I knew I could believe that we were going to win. I said, that's all right, I'll buy yours. And then when you don't have any and you call me and say, can I get tickets, I'm going to charge you twice as much. So he bought tickets.
When was the first time you learned about what Pitt meant to people here? Was it when you were going to games with your dad? Was it when you became a player? obviously you grew up in Ohio and that deal. When did it hit you?
They recruited me hard.
Okay.
So I knew the staff. That was Coach Riddle and Franny Webster and Gerg. So I mean I knew those guys. They came over. You know, my dad had to camp. They came over and spoke at camp and all those kind of things, and spent time with my dad and my mother, talking about Pitt and their program and all those kind of things in the summertime, which was a smart thing for them to do. So I mean, I knew those guys pretty well, you know, when the recruiting process started. And I did what I did because of a relationship I had with the head coach. I just wish he would have told me he was going to retire after my freshman year, that's all.
But when did it become Ohio State Michigan for you? When you were a player?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I mean, I'm really not that far away, and I've got relatives all over, you know, northern West Virginia here. So I mean, I knew about it a little bit. I don't think it was as big a rivalry as. No, I think it was. It got to that.
That's what I mean, because you guys all knew each other, right?
Yeah.
You knew all the Pitt players. Pitt players knew all you guys. You played in the summertime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, played. We'd go up and play. Yeah, up on a hill.
So how good is this Pitt team? What's your scout tell you?
They're intriguing. They've got great size. Their guards are big. Hughley's a guy that I know well. He's an Ohio kid from Brush. Playing the way we were playing at the time he was being recruited, we were more into pressing and running and those things. But he's done a great job of taking care of himself, and he's got great hands. But they've got great size. They got a 6'10" who can step out and make shots for them, and which you got to that spreads your bigs out, gets your bigs away from the basket. I think Jeff's done a great job of putting that team together.
They obviously struggled defending the three in the first game. You guys defended the three pretty well. They rebounded the ball pretty decently. You guys struggled in rebounding. Do you see a contrasting styles here for tomorrow night at all?
I think we'll guard the three a little better this time around, but I don't know. It's one of those things where they played a team who they made shots. I mean, you go back. I've watched it 3 or 4 times, and they made shots, and they made hard shots. And it wasn't just, standing out there shooting step-in threes. They drove it, pitched it. They really did a good job. And I think probably, which I probably shouldn't say, but I just think that they didn't expect that. So they weren't as, they'll expect what they're going to get from us, much like we're going to expect what they're going to bring to us.
And you've played them for several years now. There was a gap. Is this a rivalry that should continue annually, in your opinion?
I think it should, but I haven't been right very much here of late. So, I just did a radio thing in Pittsburgh, and I think you look back. Jamie did a terrific job of recruiting basically under-recruited guys in New York and really up and down the eastern seaboard, and they were really good. They were really good. They were really hard to play against. they were really good in that building. And I think, I think Jeff's trying to do the same thing. It's a lot harder than what people think it is to build a program, to get the right guys. And I know going to Cincinnati, I had 4 scholarship guys. We played my first year with 4 scholarship guys, and the rest were walk-ons. That's hard.
What's the difference between college town basketball school, big city? I mean, you've coached at both, Cincinnati and here.
I think it's hard for our people to get to every game. I think in the city it's not. Bob, I tell you, I was like beside myself if we didn't have 13-176. After we got it going at Cincinnati. I think Jamie was probably that way at Pitt because, the people are right there for us. We've got season ticket holders all over the state of West Virginia and Maryland and D.C. and everywhere else, and it's hard. We're going to have a sellout tomorrow from everything I can gather, and that's big. That's big here, particularly at this time of the year.
Is there a difference in the connection of the fans to the team? Cincinnati had the Reds, Pirates, Pittsburgh Steelers, etc. And here, you got not root for this, you root for Fairmont State.
Yeah, at first, but then you have to remember, Bob, we were the only ones of that group that you named that won. The Reds after the World Series. Now, when the World Series team, that was a different deal. But then a lot of those guys wanted to make more money, and they left, and they brought new guys up and whatever, and we were the only ones that won on a consistent basis. So, and as the mayor said to me one time, he said, Coach, don't worry about Xavier. He said, we're never going to change the name of the town. So, yeah, but it wasn't uncommon for us to. We sold out every game, so we sold out, and most times Xavier sold out. But you're talking about a big city, and you're talking about a very sports crazed town. You know that, you've been there. It's a sports crazed town. Here, it's hard, man. It's hard to come from Mingo County. It's hard. It's hard to think about those people who come over the hill from over and on the border and the Maryland border. And there are people over there. I was getting ready to walk downstairs with Rod Thorne, and this guy came up and gave Rod a piece of the floor from the old field house. And he said he had been to like 397 consecutive home games from way over. That's a fan. That's a fan. And to me, that's the difference. That's like somebody from Cleveland coming to Cincinnati like every single game. That don't happen. Never.
Between Xavier and Cincinnati, Pitt, West Virginia?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
More intense, or?
It's way more intense. The Cincinnati Xavier game is like a bloodbath, or like they used to say, it's like the bad guys fighting the Christians, Well, we were the Christians. People just didn't know.
Well, that game's played every year. This game hasn't.
Yeah, but it was for a long time.
But it was intense for a long time.
It was, yeah. It was probably at the peak when I played. It was probably way more intense than any other rivalry I know. It was brutal. And everybody was fighting. Fans were fighting. I remember the one game when Junior Sample and Tiger Paul got into it. It was kind of like watching two fat guys roll around, but
Who got the better of who?
But they were rolling around. I don't know. they ushered us off the floor because that was when people started throwing things and carrying on. And we got to the bottom of the deal. Shrewsbury finally does admit now when Junius tossed him underneath the radio table, and he kept poking his head out to see if it was safe to come out. And he's finally admitted it, that it did happen.
I'm kind of wondering, getting a gauge here on just kind of how much times have changed in the sense that when it came time, when you were at Cincinnati, when it came time for the Xavier game, as far as, what did you have to tell your guys about that game, as opposed to now, 20-some years later. I would imagine you probably have to maybe tell your guys about this rivalry a little bit, or maybe not. I don't know.
No, the Xavier UC rivalry it's like nothing you've ever seen before. I mean, like, people get surprised when there's a fight. There was a fight, West Virginia Pitt, just about every time. I mean, it was if it wasn't the players fighting with each other, it was people in the stands.
Players today that probably don't share that same.
Well, I don't, honestly, Justin, I don't know why it was that way back then. I mean, they had some fans that were over the top, but we had some fans probably that were over the top too. And it's changed, man. It's changed. I mean, you got everything at for instance, a UC Xavier game. Other than prison guards. You got everything else. I mean, you've got the State Highway Patrol, you've got the Cincinnati Police, you've got the UC University Police, you've got the Xavier. I mean, they're everywhere, and there's police everywhere, and it wasn't that way back then.
Bob,
and then and I don't mean this in the wrong way. I mean this in a very positive light. But Jack did our games, but he also did the Steelers. So there was a kind of a little rub there, with him, and he didn't hide he was a West Virginia fan. I mean, he didn't hide that at all. So I mean, that kind of got things riled up a little bit.
So do you have players today asking you about this rivalry? Do they get into it? I mean,
no.
That's what I thought. I mean, that's changed, right? I mean,
It's been dead for so long. It's been dead a while, and it really wasn't. In the Big East days, when I first got back here, in the Big East days, it wasn't near like it was when I played. Yeah, but it wasn't. You didn't have all the craziness. It was a basketball game. All the craziness wasn't involved.
I know you fit this game in where it fits on your schedule. Is this the right place for it? Would you prefer it in December? I mean, you're getting a November sellout with them here, which is rare here.
I think Mess came up with this is the first sellout in the history of November basketball.
So you go up there, you would have a big crowd up there if you played in November. So is it where it should be, or would you like to see it in December, or does it matter?
I think it'd probably be better off pushed back maybe a little bit, but not. I mean, once you start to get ready for conference, that's it. You shouldn't have. I mean, I don't particularly like those challenge games that we got in the middle of the conference.
It just seems like if you have a few games, it just builds up a little more anticipation.
The honest to God's truth, John, we don't have a say in it anyways. Television's going to tell us when to play. Whether we want it later or earlier or whatever, it really doesn't matter. They're going to say, here's the dates we have, and you need to play on these dates.
Bob, recruiting, you just signed your class. Did you fill the needs you felt you had? Is there room for further in the spring?
I think there will be, yeah.
Did you get what you wanted?
Well, we needed another point guard. We're going to lose. We're going to lose a point guard, maybe two. It's hard because I don't know. I don't know who's staying and who's going. I mean, that's where we are in college basketball. That's not here. That's everywhere. And so you're sitting there trying to fill your needs. It's what we do. But now you really don't know what your needs are going to be. I mean, I think we got a decent idea, but they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell me they're getting in a portal. They don't have to tell me they're talking to an agent.
Exhibit number one, the guys you're playing, they've been hit pretty hard with the portal. It's basically a different team than what you saw, clearly 2 years ago, but last year too.
Well, I mean, we didn't get hit as bad by the portal, but we lost 2 pros.
No, I mean them hit.
Yeah.
I mean, they got hit pretty hard.
I'm saying so did we. We lost 2 pros. We lost a guy who arguably may have, at least been in the running for the player of the year in our league. And we lost another guy who was going to be a first-team All-League guy who was a first-team All-American in some, the way some people saw it. So, I mean, we're all going to take hits. It's just, the days of a guy coming to school and knowing that you're going to have him for 4 years are done. I mean, you don't know. You know how many guys there are out there that have played at 5 schools in 5 years? Remember the little white kid played at Pitt last year? Was it last year, year before, whenever? He could make the shots. He called me about coming here. I'm like, come on, man. He's at Tulane. I think this is 5 in 5 years. And now doesn't that and now this portal thing all came about. That was the NCAA that did that. That wasn't college basketball. That was the NCAA. And so five schools in 5 years is a great academic plan, right? Come on. How's that guy going to graduate?
Well, I think we've asked about this before, but football has the ability a kid can play 4 games and still be redshirted. Why does college basketball not have the ability to play kids and maintain a red shirt? Would you like to see that?
I think that would help them. I think it would help them to realize where they stand in college basketball. I mean, it would have been no. And again, I didn't think at the time, but I was fortunate. Coach Snyder decided to retire, and I didn't want to play for. The assistant was there, and so I transferred here. But I got to practice every day, and I got to play against guys that were really good. I got to before the season started and after the season ended, I got to try to guard Will Robinson. You're going to get better, but you also find out you're probably not what you think you were.